Okay, it's 12 o'clock. Today, Daniel Lamb within the CMI department and Ron Ergod of the CMI department will be presenting on maintenance of traffic and work zone safety in roadway operations. It's a manager's perspective. Starting, the purpose of today's discussion is to briefly explain the importance of maintaining a steady traffic flow and ensuring safety in the work zone areas. We will also provide details regarding the effectiveness and of a well-designed maintenance of traffic plan and how a MOT plan should help reduce congestion and enhance safety for both workers and the traveling public. We will emphasize the risk and how the risk is managed by the MOT team. If not watched closely, mistakes have consequences. Today, if you learn at least one key detail, please remember that safety is everyone's responsibility. If you see something, say something, everyone has a voice. Safety first in traffic zones.
Yeah, and any good presentation should have the what, when, and why. And most of you guys know the definition of MOT as being the process of setting up temporary traffic control measures in typically nightly, temporarily permanent, or rolling fashions, ensuring a safe environment for the traveling public and protecting workers on site, um, and with limited disruption or inconvenience to the traveling public. The key there is finding a balance between protecting workers on site and limited disruption and inconvenience to the traveling public. Um, the combination of safety for the public and the workers is vital um, for safe and successful projects. I've been asked multiple times in multiple different venues on how we can make work zones safer. It's really the most ambiguous question I really get asked a lot because no two work zones are the same and no two projects are the same. So much detail goes into the design and execution of an MOT plan. We're going to dig into some of those topics, explaining how we can better design and execute these plans.
Okay, moving on to objectives, understanding some key points of MOT. We're going to start with purpose. One of the main purposes is to provide a safe working environment for the construction personnel, motorists, and pedestrians by minimizing hazards associated within the work zone. In addition, the traffic control manager must attempt to maintain the flow of traffic through and around the construction area, reducing congestion and delays. The MOT plan will help delineate clear paths for vehicles and pedestrians, ensuring that traffic can navigate safely through and around the work zone. Other key details is public awareness and communication. This is to inform the public about construction activities, detours, and potential impacts on traffic. The plan should provide a clear communication about what to expect and how to navigate through affected areas. Next, we're going to talk about components related to MOT. This should include signage, lane closure, detours, flaggers, barriers, pavement markings, and traffic signal adjustments. Traffic control devices will inform drivers in the work zone and guide them safely through or around the area. Detour signage should be clearly marked. The sign should be visible, highly visible, and easy to read. Other components is the work zone layout plan. The layout plan should be clearly defined as it lays out the outlines of the work area, including space for equipment and workers while ensuring enough room for emergency vehicles if needed. Other components to consider are time restrictions and dates of the closure. Some closures may be scheduled for off-peak hours to minimize impact on traffic. The next item is planning. A maintenance of traffic plan is created by the designer to detail the specific traffic control measures needed for each unique construction project and to follow the MUTCD standards. In other words, a maintenance of traffic plan is a strategic document created to manage and the traffic control flow during construction, maintenance, or repair activities on the roadway. The plan is essential for ensuring the safety of both workers and the traveling public. While minimizing disruptions, it outlines the procedures and methods necessary to maintain a safe traffic condition during these activities. The MOT standards are defined by the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, MUTCD, and also the SHA local county or local town ordinance. Finally, roles and responsibilities, construction personnel are responsible for the enforcement of the MOT plan. In some cases, law enforcement may be deployed to ensure compliance with traffic control measures and to manage any disruptions. Finally, when you see something that is out of place, don't hesitate to speak up. Your voice matters. And together, as the MOT team, we can create a safer work zone environment. The next slide is understanding maintenance of traffic, the elements on a productive maintenance of traffic plan. The first topic is risk assessment. Before starting on any project, it is important to conduct a thorough risk assessment and log your findings. This process entails the identification of potential hazards, which may include high traffic zones, blind spots, and critical intersections. Furthermore, assessing the level of risk associated with each hazard is critical. By recognizing, assessing, and understanding these risks at the start, planners can create strategies to effectively mitigate the risk. The risk levels can fluctuate between high risk levels and low risk levels. No matter the level, updating the project risk register throughout the project lifecycle is highly recommended. Moving on to communication and coordination, successful traffic control and safety planning hinges on a clear communication and coordination with all stakeholders. The collaborative effort involves engaging with local authorities, transportation agencies, schools, emergency services, and construction crews, and the public to ensure that everyone is well informed about the planned activities and safety measures. Effective communication fosters a collective understanding and commitment to safety. Work zone safety measures. This usually presents unique safety challenges due to the combination of construction equipment, workforce presence, and dynamic traffic patterns. It is essential to implement clear signage, establish visible speed limits, enforce lane closures, and create buffer zones to protect both workers and motorists. Additionally, it is prudent to evaluate on-site, site-specific conditions to ensure obedience with established safety standards, while considering any unique obstacles within your work zone and how to mitigate it. Utilizing the appropriate traffic control devices is our next topic. Traffic control devices are needed for managing traffic flow and ensuring safety. This includes using signage, barricades, cones, and flaggers to guide motorists and pedestrians safely through the work zones, detours, and other challenging areas. Any concerns with the specialized devices should be discussed with all stakeholders on the project, including the designers during your kickoff meeting. Adaptability and flexibility. Traffic conditions can be unpredictable and may change rapidly once the project commences or even before the project begins closing lanes. It is vital for planners to remain adaptable and flexible in their approaches, developing contingency plans for unexpected occurrences, such as accidents, severe weather, or road closures. Enables swift adjustment to help maintain safe flows. Historical events such as COVID-19 demonstrates the importance of being prepared for sudden changes. Monitoring and evaluation of traffic patterns are critical for identifying areas that require improvement. This is recommended for the life cycle of the MOT plan. It is important to remain vigilant and open to learning throughout the road work safety area. Use your experience, lessons learned from the past, and up-to-date MUTCD standards. Also use your common sense throughout your daily observation of safety practices. Finally, public education and awareness. Educating the public about safe driving practices is essential. Following traffic laws and the potential hazards associated with work zones constitutes a vital component of traffic control and safety planning. Proactive engaging in public outreach prior to the commencement of construction, ideally as early as possible, is the best option. It can significantly enhance awareness and promote a culture of safety within the community.
So many of us have been through different topics and get to, talking about work zone safety. And one of the things that happens a lot when a job goes to construction is the design versus construction mentality. I've seen it so many times in partnering meetings at State Highway and such that, we look at it an us versus them concept from construction to design and then design to construction. If design would have done this, we could have avoided it. If construction just would have done it per plan, then we could have avoided this. This isn't just regarding MOT, this is regarding amongst most projects that get to the point of construction, but specifically regarding MOT, we understand designers use construction specifications to drive their MOT plan. And then construction workers and managers implement that plan to the best of their ability. But why is there a disconnect? A lot of times it just comes down to communication. The construction workers understanding the MUTCD and the regulations and standards and why they're implemented is vital to the understanding of the actual implementation of the plan as it was given in the contract documents or the plan. And then also informing designers of courses such as the maintenance of traffic manager course given by MTBMA. It gives a good understanding of what the construction managers and inspectors are looking at in the field. A good designer understands of why we put the devices on paper, and a good construction worker understands of how to properly implement those devices. So putting that communication together can hopefully avoid some of these metrics you see up on the screen. This is a graphic from 2022, and you can see the amount of crashes and lost lives in work zones, and it's unfortunate. But as this week is Work Zone Safety Awareness Week, including some of these graphics and stuff in here is a good talking point. So with that, I'll transition to the next slide here, and we've kind of pulled that Band-Aid off about talking about communication. So now it's time for some audience participation with you guys. We're gonna take a minute and watch this video. It's from New York DOT. And I want you to think of two questions. What was your role in MOT as your job sits today? And then as a group session of what do you think could have been done to avoid or mitigate this?
ABC News exclusive with the highway worker who narrowly avoided being hit by an oncoming box truck. Trevor Ault is here with the story. Incredibly troubling, scary images there. Trevor, good morning.
Good morning, Rebecca. We often see signs about traffic fines doubling in work zones because crashes like these can be really dangerous. And this morning, we're hearing from that road worker who narrowly avoided disaster.
Watch the dramatic moment a truck narrowly misses a road worker on a New York highway.
I looked out at the right time and got out of there at the right time.
61-year-old Chuck Ellerson tells ABC News in an exclusive interview how he averted what could have been a tragedy.
I tried to get out of the way the best I can. I thought for sure it's close enough to where it would have done a lot more than what it did.
Ellerson is a highway maintenance worker. He says he'd been collecting trash on that road when a box truck darted in his direction.
Next thing I know, I said, this guy's not going to miss me.
Dash cam video from one of the two work vehicles shows the truck crashing into the work area, demolishing one of the vehicles. Ellerson narrowly escaping uninjured.
Okay, so that's a scary video. There's no argument to that. But if anybody would like to chime in, I know a little bit of the backstory of it from researching, so it's kind of an unfair advantage for me. But if anybody would like to chime in to think about what could have been done to avoid this accident or mitigate this potential accident? And I'll let you guys chime in. You can raise your hand or just go ahead and speak freely.
I mean, were there enough safety devices to protect this guy ahead of his truck?
Yes. So good point, Ray. The truck that you see the video camera from was a protection vehicle. So he was standing in between his deploy truck and the protection vehicle at the time of the accident. The truck actually struck the attenuator partially as well.
See. Oh, well, thank you.
All right, Mr. Hassan, go ahead.
I would say right lane closure.
Okay, so a buffer lane.
But yes, and also
Okay.
providing some temporary traffic barrier.
Yep. So, and again, like I said, I have a little bit of background, but you're correct. A buffer lane would have been good. This had just happened where the protection vehicle, to give you guys the full feedback on, does anybody else got anything to add to it before I go on and explain the little bit of the scenario here? Any other thoughts that could go with it? All right. The deploy vehicle, as you saw, parked in front of the protection truck, they were getting ready to put out the shoulder closure. Okay, so the devices had not been put out to do the complete shoulder closure as it sat. He had just gotten down, he had just gotten out, and this box truck came through the work zone. Now, the only things that had been placed at this time were the advanced warning signs. But to talk about some options here that we could talk about, we were very spot on with talking about adding a buffer lane. That gets talked about a lot in construction. And we know one of the issues with our clients at times is they don't want to put out a buffer lane because they're going to impact traffic, right? So they think about the traffic flow and mitigating that risk. Could this work have been done at night? Meaning we could have avoided that by taking the lane closure and doing the work at night. Did we utilize any police in our work zone? Do we have any additional lighting with the police lights or anything like that? Another part to it as well is it was a little worrisome seeing an individual in a pinch point. You know, construction's not always, free of fault in this. He should have never been between two vehicles where he had a blind spot and looking out into traffic. That is just absolutely not ideal situation. But I want to back this up real quick, and I want you guys to see prevailing speed of an accident in the work zone. I want you guys to watch his hard hat.
With the highway worker who narrowly avoided being hit
His
by
hard
an
hat was blown
oncoming
completely off of his head when he had that near miss. That near miss, thankfully, was nothing worse. But that is long and short of that process. So when we're talking about this as a whole, here's some graphics that you guys can see that I know you guys have seen before when you guys are doing your standards and everything like that. But I want to get in a little bit of detail about what it means in the construction world to us in the field. So the bottom of the two graphics shows a ideal setup of a paving train on a 3-lane roadway. So we're talking interstate paving. We have the work in the slow lane on this regard, with the trucks entering and leaving the second lane, and the third lane, if you're talking in depending on how you guys are naming your lanes, depending on which client we're working for, but in the fast lane is open. So you can see how everything's stationed. And we have these colors that we call it in the world of construction. Everything in that's hashed there is what we would call the red space. That is the danger zone. That's inside the work zone on the active roadway. When we would get to the shoulder, that's what we would call the yellow zone, where you have a buffer, you're protected by equipment and workers. And then you'd get into your green space, just like we would on anything else, the green zone. That's where if you needed to take a phone call in the work zone or anything like that, hopefully you're off in the green area. You see the advanced warning area on the graphic on the top. That clearly should indicate to the public of the upcoming work zone with ample signage and warning markers. It was covered well in the previous presentation that we did about the work zone planning. Then we have our transition area. Should smoothly transition drivers into the work zone using lane closures, channelizing devices, and appropriate lane markings. Then you have your actual activity area, which is a combination of your buffer space and work zone. And then you have your termination area, which is a gradual return to traffic to normal conditions. Now, there's two parts of this work zone that are, very dangerous. Does anybody know the two areas in the work zone where the majority of accidents occur? Can you guys, anybody have an answer for where they think the majority of the accidents? There's two key parts to that where the accidents occur. Does anybody know that answer?
I'd say one of them is the the transition area.
Okay. Yep. The number one area is the transition area, and the number two area is the termination area. Yeah. The transition area is, like it says, it's a merge point. A lot of side swipes, a lot of rear end collisions because traffic's coming to a slowdown. Number two area is the termination area because, as we all know, once the people see the end in sight, their foot's to the floor leaving the work zone. So one of the big worries you always have in construction is where we place the clear out area for paving or for any of that, because a lot of times it's near that termination area and that's where people come. So making sure there's adequate lighting and stuff up there is always a key part for us. So some specific practices to follow, and we're talking about this specifically. Dan covered the traffic control plans and developing that, communicating it, looking at traffic volume, roadway geometry, and weather conditions, not just talking about what our actual volume is, but what is prevailing volume, looking at that on the standards of what the prevailing speeds are. Minimizing lane closures, only closing necessary lanes and implementing lane shifts to minimize traffic disruption in conjunction with worker safety. Talking about, did we look at a buffer zone? Did we talk about it? Off-peak work scheduling. Are we looking at those lower traffic periods to reduce the impact on workers? But are we also looking at time frame? Can we do more work at night to have less impact on our workers, being they get more production done? Clear signage and marking, utilizing the appropriate standards, and making sure it's understandable, and having the pavement markings and everything delineated through the job, making sure everything's kept up to speed. I spoke about the proper lighting, making sure the work zones are clearly lit and that we have adequate lighting for the whole work zone. Regular inspections, are we doing regular drive-throughs the work zone? One thing I would always tell people when I would do a detour is I would drive through a detour backwards. And that sounds funny, but as a construction manager, driving through it backwards, make sure I can see all the appropriate signage from the back, knowing this should be this sign because I'm coming up on this turn, and driving it backwards because I don't know where I'm going makes it a better transition for that. Are we doing any new technologies? And we'll get into a little bit more of that later, talking about some portable rumble strips and automated flaggers, and then also ASE deployment.
I do have a question about that transition area in terms of like motion. So like what if you're doing work, like what if you're coming off of a ramp, but you're not doing work on the ramp, you're doing work like on the road that's like in front of the ramp? Would you just do like a detour, or would you apply that same traffic space because you're coming off a ramp and it's not like enough space for it to to do.
I understand what you're saying. I get it. And it's going to be I'm going to give you a vague answer because it has to be kind of. It depends on the ramp. If we have a 2-lane ramp and we can move traffic on the ramp, or we have shoulders where we can delineate traffic on the ramps, and also what road that we're connecting to where the ramp is connected. Did we do anything out there? So the answer to your question is yes, we would want to control traffic coming off of the ramp into the work zone. However, how we do that is going to be based on the actual site conditions that you're on there. I'm also looking at prevailing speed. If we have an interstate going onto a rural road and we're doing work on the rural road and we know the prevailing speed on the ramp is greater than that, we would look at all of those different type things. For instance, I've had plans come before where we put a flagger at the end of the ramp in the work zone and it was coming off of a high volume road onto a rural road. It was not ideal. So we had to look at other methodologies to move traffic. Go ahead.
No,
right. You got any? I'm sorry. Did you have something else? I apologize.
No, that was it. Thank you.
Yep. So challenges in the field. We discussed some of them, but I want to go over a few metrics with you guys here to just talk about it and explain why this is so important. And like I said, too, the reason we're doing this training today, this is Work Zone Safety Awareness Week. Today is the day for training on work zone safety. So we kind of modified the maintenance of traffic from a construction manager's inspective to talk about work zone safety too, because it's a good forum for all of us to have that conversation. So since 2019, there's been 8,049 crashes in Maryland work zones. Of these, 6,185 resulted in property damage only. 2,293 have resulted in non-fatal injuries, and 56 have resulted in fatalities. 34.7% of work zone crashes have resulted in non-fatal or fatal injuries. That's a staggering over 1/3 of the crashes results in an injury. This dump truck here, state highway dump truck, is from an incident in District 7 where they were out doing a litter blitz pickup. You can see the trash bags in the back of the truck. Thankfully, the workers were not inside the truck. That's what they were in the green space on the shoulder. But you could see how quickly something like that could happen. So again, I was talking about Work Zone Safety Awareness Week. We talked briefly about the MTBMA Traffic Control Manager training, mainly for construction workers and inspection staff. But you could look at some of the training manuals and stuff. And if you guys need anything, we might be able to pull some stuff and you can see some of our books and stuff to understand what that is. So that leads me to the next topic. How many of you guys have seen this memorial at a convention before with a show of hands? I know it's blurry on the screen, but this is the National Work Zone Safety Memorial that talks about everybody who's lost their life in a work zone. But how many of you guys personally, I'd like a show of hands, if you guys could just raise your hand on the Teams app. How many of you personally been impacted or know somebody who's impacted in a work zone fatality? Okay, one. Well, I want you guys all to know that every one of you has. Because my Uncle Scotty, Scott Ergott, was a SHA maintenance worker, and he was taken from us early at the age of 23 in 1984. He was changing a tire on the Capitol Beltway right out by the IKEA sign, just past Greenbelt. And there's a memorial that if you guys have ever went down to District 3, that's for him and Mr. Bean. And they give an award away, or not an award, but you give a combination away for any time there's a work zone incident. So we'll let you all know that it impacts everybody, and that it's not just individualistic to construction workers or anything. It really touches all of us in the industry. So you guys all do now know somebody who is impacted. So talking about some recent changes in the Book of Standards, and I know you guys are all aware of this when you're doing your designs, but I want to talk about a couple things specifically that jumped out to me while I was doing this and reviewing it, and we talk about it at our construction different forums, but is the safety light specification of Class 1 as determined by SAE or SHA Office of Maintenance. you see the green lights on the construction vehicles in the work zones and within conjunction with the ambers. Most of the actual construction inspection vehicles are still using ambers, but any of the larger trucks are using those greens and they need to be class 1. Also, the protection vehicle, specifications have updated. There's new rules for using them with greater detail. It's not as fluid as it was before. It's not kind of up to the prevailing speed. It's a lot more prescriptive of where they use that. So if you guys are going through any designs currently, take a look at those, because there is requirements for that. And then there's also new requirements for truck crossing signage on work zones, and then also temporary portable rumble strips. And we'll get into that here a little bit more as we go. So going into the temporary portable rumble strips, currently, because I want to talk about some new opportunities to increase safety for our workers and for the public. They're mandatory now in the way the standards are written today in the update. They're mandatory for all daytime flagging on 2-lane roadways longer than 3 hours equal to or over 40 miles an hour. So that's a brand new standard that's put in. You guys cut the snapshot of the standard here. However, they're also recommended in advance of detours, flaggers, lane closures, temporary signals, and any location requiring high speeds. There's currently 2 standards utilizing these temporary rumble strips, so you guys can see them listed there. I know you can't really take it in, but I just let you guys take a look at that as you guys are implementing any changes to that. Then also, from one of our conferences that I've been to, I've actually deployed these at one time in District 5 as a pilot. And this is the type that I use. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video so you guys see what these temporary rumble strips are, and then ask any questions about the process.
For more than 3 decades, PSS has developed innovative safety solutions that protect all road users, from workers to drivers and pedestrians. One of our proudest accomplishments is the development of the Roadquake safety system. Roadquake is a highly engineered temporary portable rumble strip that is placed perpendicular to the direction of travel with the purpose of increasing driver attention to changes on the road, such as work zones and other temporary conditions. As motorists travel over Roadquake, they will hear and feel the significant vibrations generated by the strips. This sensation has been proven to redirect drivers' attention back to the roadway as they travel safely through your work zone. Distracted driving has become a leading cause of work zone fatalities and injuries. Designed to reduce accidents and save lives, Roadquake can lower the rate of work zone intrusions caused by distracted driving. Through our years of extensive testing and research, PSS has become the leading authority on temporary portable rumble strips. Visit our website at pss-innovations.com for more than.
So that's one of 2 portable rumble strips that is currently on the qualified products list at SHA. The second thing to talk about are the AFAD, the automated flagger devices. It's a temporary traffic control device that can be operated remotely. AFADs are used to direct traffic in work zones and are designed to keep flaggers safe. Flaggers use a radio control unit or cable to remotely operate the AFAD, and they have a mechanized gate or arm that controls the arm to come down with a mechanized gate arm and lights to control the traffic. These devices keep flaggers out of the traffic lane and away from danger. There are 2 standards that utilize this currently at State Highway. Or here are 2 standards that utilize. There's more than that, but just to get a concept there. And then also same thing on this one, another quick little video to show you guys.
The RCF 2.4 Automated Flagger Assistance Device was the first of its kind developed by North America Traffic over 25 years ago, and was the first AFAD successfully tested and approved in Canada and the US. Since then, it is still recognized as the safest alternative to human flaggers for temporary work zone traffic control. Based in the Niagara region, North America Traffic pioneered the development of trailer-mounted, battery-powered, solar-assisted traffic control systems for temporary installations. Our new and improved design allows for 2 units to be locked together, allowing them to be towed as one unified trailer, eliminating the need for tandem towing. The lightweight design and small footprint allow for a quick and easy setup, The average time to set up 2 devices on a job site is minutes, and they can be easily repositioned by hand. Single lane closures on typical applications of the AFAD are gas line, water, and sewer maintenance sites, asphalt paving, road reconstruction and maintenance zones, guardrail repairs, ditching, tree trimming, hydroelectric, and telephone line maintenance, as well as special event lane closures. Safety to flaggers is the top priority with all design decisions made on any of our units. With this design, flaggers are off the road, out of harm's way, safe from distracted, speeding, and intoxicated drivers, while still controlling the flow of traffic with remote control devices. The RCF 2.4 AFAD has a single head with a red and amber lens with a highly...
All right, I'm not going to get into too much more of it, but do any of you guys, have any of you guys utilized AFADs or temporary portable rumble strips in any of your guys' MOT plans before? Okay. Well, if you guys have any questions about them specifically, I have deployed them both in active work zones before, and am more than happy to have that conversation with you to explain how they work and how that process goes. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dan for our conclusion.
Ron, a lot of good key details in that presentation on this Work Zone Safety Week. But to conclude, today we discussed the purpose, components, planning, and standards, and our role together. As a unified team, we must prioritize safety, use best practices, collaborate and coordinate, enroll continuous ongoing training, maintain a risk register, document anything you see and say something if you see something. Remain adaptable and flexible. And with that being said, thank you for your attention today. We're open to any questions you may have.
All right, so does anybody have any questions or comments or anything they'd like to discuss while we still have a few more minutes of the presentation?
Well, first of all, I want to thank both of you for a great presentation, and I'm sure it took quite some time to prepare that. It was very helpful for everybody, especially our highway and traffic guys. And these topics are very, very valuable. Again, thank you both.
Thank you, Ray. All right, applause.
Well, like I said, if any of you guys have any questions, I know sometimes we don't like to speak up in the group, but feel free to stop by Dan or I's office, and we can discuss, some of those technologies that we have, or if you have a job-specific question that you need a constructability perspective or a construction manager perspective, we're always here to do that for you guys, as it'll only help our peers in the field, hopefully get a safer project, and hopefully help you guys with your on time and on budget parts of your projects, with less questions and changes in the field. All right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stop recording. Thanks everyone for showing up. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.